The Merchant of Venice play by William Shakespeare. Long ago, in the wealthy city of Venice, there lived a merchant named Antonio. He was respected, kind-hearted, and generous. But at the beginning of our story, he felt strangely sad, even though his ships were sailing the seas carrying valuable goods. He walked around gloomy and restless. His friends could not understand why. Among Antonio's close friends was a young nobleman named Bassanio. Bassanio was charming and good-looking, but he often spent too much money and got into debt. Despite his flaws, Antonio cared deeply for him, almost like a brother. One day, Bassanio came to Antonio with a bold request. He confessed that he had fallen in love with a wealthy and beautiful heiress named Portia, who lived in the city of Belmont. Portia was admired by many because she was not only rich, but also wise and graceful. Bassanio wanted to win her hand in marriage. But there was a problem. To court a woman like Portia, he needed to appear wealthy and impressive, with gifts, fine clothes, and servants. Bassanio had no money, so he asked Antonio to lend him the funds. Antonio's money, however, was tied up in his ships, which were still at sea. He didn't have cash at the moment, but he was so loyal to Bassanio that he promised to find a way. He told Bassanio, "Go, borrow money in my name. I will back you up." To raise the money, Antonio and Bassanio turned to Shylock, a Jewish moneylender in Venice. Shylock was a complicated man, clever, sharp in business, and deeply resentful of the way Venetians treated him. Many Christians insulted him, mocked his religion, and even Antonio himself had spoken harshly against him before. So when Antonio came to borrow money, Shylock saw an opportunity. He agreed to lend him 3,000 ducats. But he set a strange condition. If Antonio could not repay the money on time, Shylock would have the right to cut a pound of flesh from Antonio's body. Antonio laughed it off. He was confident that his ships would return safely with riches long before the deadline. Out of loyalty to Bassanio, he signed the contract. Meanwhile, in Belmont, Portia faced her own challenge. Her late father had left a will that set the terms for her marriage. Any man who wished to marry her had to choose correctly among 3 caskets, one made of gold, one of silver, and one of lead. Inside the correct casket was a portrait of Portia. If the suitor chose wrongly, he had to leave at once and never try again. Many suitors came and failed. A proud prince chose the gold casket, thinking wealth must hold the prize. Inside was a skull with a scroll warning about greed. Another prince chose the silver casket, thinking it reflected his own worth. Inside was the picture of a fool. Portia was relieved, for she secretly hoped Bassanio would come and succeed. At last, Bassanio arrived in Belmont with gifts and a confident heart. Thanks to Antonio's sacrifice, Portia, who already admired him, nervously watched as he prepared to choose. The gold casket tempted him with its glitter. The silver one promised fairness. But Bassanio reasoned, "Appearances can deceive. True worth lies beneath the surface." So he chose the lead casket, the one that looked least valuable. Inside, he found Portia's portrait and a message declaring him the winner. Portia was overjoyed. She placed a ring on his finger, saying, "As long as you wear this ring, you are bound to me." Just as Bassanio and Portia celebrated, troubling news arrived from Venice. Antonio's ships had been wrecked at sea. He had lost everything, and now the payment to Shylock was due. Shylock, who despised Antonio, refused to show mercy. He demanded the pound of flesh exactly as the contract stated. Antonio was arrested and brought to trial. Bassanio, full of guilt, prepared to return to Venice immediately to save his friend. Portia, determined not to be left behind, secretly devised a clever plan. The court of Venice was crowded when Antonio's trial began. The Duke, acting as judge, pleaded with Shylock to show pity. Even Bassanio, and others offered Shylock twice, even 3 times the money to cancel the bond. But Shylock would not listen. He clutched the contract tightly and declared, "If you deny me, where's the justice of Venice? I stand for the law. I demand my bond." Antonio, pale and resigned, prepared for death. Just then, a young lawyer appeared, accompanied by a clerk. The lawyer was none other than Portia in disguise, and the clerk was her maid Nerissa. They had dressed as men and traveled quickly to Venice. The Duke welcomed the lawyer, who introduced herself as Balthazar, a learned doctor of law sent by a famous scholar. Portia listened to both sides and then spoke with calm authority. She told Shylock, according to the law, he was indeed entitled to a pound of flesh, but she urged him to show mercy, saying, "The quality of mercy is not strained. It drops like gentle rain from heaven." Shylock refused. He demanded justice, not mercy. Portia then agreed. "The law must be followed. Take your pound of flesh." Shylock prepared his knife eagerly. Antonio stood ready. But then Portia added sharply, "Wait. The bond allows you only flesh, not blood. If you shed 1 drop of Christian blood, all your property will be confiscated." Shylock froze. He realized he could not cut flesh without spilling blood. Portia continued, "The law of Venice also stated that any foreigner who sought the life of a Venetian could have his own property seized and possibly face execution." Shylock had trapped himself. Shylock begged to take the money instead, but Portia insisted it was too late. The Duke spared Shylock's life, but ordered that half his wealth should go to Antonio. Half should go to the state. Antonio showed mercy. He said he did not want Shylock's wealth for himself. Instead, he asked only that Shylock convert to Christianity and leave his fortune to his daughter Jessica, who had earlier run away with a Christian named Lorenzo. Broken and humiliated, Shylock accepted and left. Antonio was free, saved by Portia's wisdom. After the trial, Bassanio thanked the young lawyer, still not knowing it was Portia, and offered her the money. Portia refused payment but slyly asked for the ring on his finger. Bassanio hesitated, remembering it was Portia's gift, but Antonio urged him to show gratitude. Finally, he gave it away. Nerissa, also disguised, plotted to get her husband Gratiano's ring too. Back in Belmont, Portia and Nerissa returned to their true clothes. When the men arrived, the women pretended to be angry that their husbands had given away their rings. The men looked ashamed. Then Portia revealed the truth. She herself had been the lawyer who saved Antonio. Nerissa too revealed her trick. Everyone laughed in amazement. Even Antonio's sadness lifted when news came that at least some of his ships had survived and riches were on their way back to Venice. The story ended joyfully. Bassanio and Portia were united in love. Gratiano and Nerissa too shared happiness. Lorenzo and Jessica found their place. Antonio, though still unmarried, was comforted by the loyalty of his friends and the return of fortune. Only Shylock remained broken and alone, a man who had demanded strict justice and lost everything when mercy was denied him. I hope you have enjoyed this video, but please like the video and subscribe the channel. Thank you.